Hello, I'm Beverly Seffel. I'm the president of Austin Wildlife Rescue. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 4th annual Caring for Critters Brunch. I want to thank you for being with us virtually. While we cannot be together in person, we want you to know that your safety is of our utmost concerns. But however, you're going to be hearing about some wonderful things that we've been doing at Austin Wildlife Rescue, and Haley's going to tell you all about them in this video. I also want to thank our sponsors, our volunteers, and our staff. And I also want to say a special thank you to the Nicholas J. Jury Family Foundation. Once again, they are our presenting sponsor. So I want to thank you very much. We also have some exciting news that there's a donor that's going to be matching your donations dollar for dollar. And Haley's going to tell you all about that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Haley.
Thank you, Beverly. We want to start off the morning by presenting our Community Giving Award. While the field of wildlife rehabilitation is not new, it's still a newer concept, and people are always so interested to hear what we do at Austin Wildlife Rescue. Many people haven't heard of wildlife rehab, or they have a let nature take its course mentality. So fortunately, that's slowly changing. Wildlife rehabilitation is such a joint effort. There is not a lot of funding, but there are always more animals that need our help. We often say that it takes a village to care for this many animals each year, and we could not do it without the generous support of our community. The past 3 years, we've given out the Community Giving Award to organizations that have made a significant impact on AWR. Thank you again to Subaru of Georgetown, Tomlinson's Feed, and Sprouts for your continued and generous support. This year, we're presenting the award to Tito's Handmade Vodka. They do so much for so many nonprofits in our community. Tito's has been supporting AWR and our efforts for several years now. They've been so generous to offer matching funds when we have an important fundraiser, and they sponsor our brunch each year. They also found out that we have an African sulcata tortoise named Tito, and they reached out to sponsor his new enclosure at our rehabilitation facility. Tito is living the life in his warm house with his mud pit and his extra secure walls so that he can't dig out. Thank you so much to Tito's Handmade Vodka for the continued and generous support. We could not be more thankful. I think we were all hoping that last year would be the end of all of these virtual events, right? But here we are again. So I hope that everyone is doing well at home, that you're staying safe and staying healthy. Thank you to all of our event sponsors and to everyone joining us this morning. Also, a very special thank you to Nick and Amy at the Nicholas J. Jury Family Foundation for being our presenting sponsor again this year. We're also excited to share that our friend Colin Corrigan has pledged to match up to $20,000 in donation raised during the event today. We would love your help doubling his donation. So thank you so much, Colin. The link to donate is in our video description. I think we can all agree that 2020 and now 2021 have been crazy years. As I said last year, we struggled with adapting during the pandemic, and we took in more animals than ever before. People were home, they were spending more time in their yards, more time in outdoor spaces than usual, and we ended up taking in over 9,500 animals. I think that we at Austin Wildlife Rescue hoped that that was a record year, and it was not a record that we were going to break as people returned to work and to life, but we were wrong. By the end of June, we've already taken in over 6,000 animals this year, which puts us on track to take in over 10,000 for the first time ever. This is not a number that we hoped or expected to reach anytime soon. When we opened our rehabilitation center in Elgin in 2019, we thought that we might see 10,000 animals within 5 to 7 years, definitely not in 3. So to say that every inch of our new facility is put to good use is not an exaggeration. We use all 8 rooms, we use our entire wraparound porch. The halls and the bathrooms may even have housed an occasional bunny or a slightly stressed out fawn. Our raccoon rooms were so full that we turned the mobile home on our property into a new raccoon house. This freed up space for the incredible number of possums and squirrels that arrived earlier this year, and it contained the raccoon stink to one building. So I will say that wearing a mask in the raccoon house may just be the new norm. Today I want to talk a little bit about what this increase in animals means, why we get so many animals in. That's a very common question for us. And then of course I want to share a few of our favorite animal stories from this year. We also have a fantastic video that we put together of some of the animals that are in our care right now. And we take you on another wildlife release with us, which is so much fun. Said 10,000 animals. That is an astounding number to me. When I first started in 2007, we took in less than 5,000 animals a year. There were 3 animal care staff, and our intake center was mostly just an intake center. Animals were dropped off, and a long list of wildlife rehabilitators came every few days and picked up the animals that they were responsible for. Some of the overflow animals did end up staying with staff. So for some reason, there weren't any rehabbers that wanted 150 white-winged doves at their house. I'm not sure why. So we as the staff would care for those. But with only a few wildlife rehabilitators left, these 10,000 animals are now almost strictly cared for by staff. Staff start at 6 a.m. and the last ones don't leave until about 2 a.m. As I've said before, it's hard to paint a picture of what caring for this many animals really looks like. You can't imagine the amount of food that we go through each week. I'm sure that the Walmart curbside people dread when our truck pulls up, if I had to guess. But we're so fortunate for companies like Tomlinson's Feed. They allow us to be part of their annual pound for pound food drive each year. We've already picked up over 5,000 pounds of dog food from them this year, and they're not done yet. Each week, we also make a trip to Sprouts, and they donate unsold produce to us. So the amount of money that these 2 amazing companies save us is unbelievable, and we are so appreciative. You know, wildlife diets are complicated. We want to do everything we can to match what these animals would eat in the wild. The right formula, the right balance of protein and veggies and insects, it's all important. Our yearly formula cost alone is over $28,000 because the formula is species specific. The amount of time that we put into our animal protocols and our various feeding and cleaning boards, it helps to keep our animals cared for and clean, and it keeps our staff very busy, but it's very important. We also have medication boards outside of every room, and our night staff spend over an hour each evening preparing meds for the next day. We're so fortunate to have volunteer veterinarians that help us with the serious injuries. Our medication costs are over $15,000 a year, and they would be much, much higher if we didn't have vets that volunteered their time. So Dr. Schuyler, who many of you here probably know, she's finally retired. And so she can be at our beck and call. She comes at least once a week to help us with any new cases, to check out the progress of the animals that are healing. And then we have 4 other veterinarians that are also available as needed. We can call them whenever we have a problem, and we can bring animals to them, or they can come out to us, and that makes our veterinary care and our animal care so much better. Another major factor when it comes to raising all these animals is caging. We found out this year what it's like to almost run out of cages for the first time. We had so many small mammals, and they all came into us in a very short period of time, and we just didn't have a place to put them without them being overcrowded. So we did a fundraiser earlier this year for just that, and we were able to raise enough money to purchase more indoor caging and incubators. So surprisingly, that only helped us cover what came in this year. That's how many more animals came in. So events like this brunch, they help us to raise funds for next year so that we can keep up with the growing number of animals. So why do all of these animals come into us? I get asked that all the time, especially on social media. And I'm sure that you're wondering the same. You're wondering if there's any way that we could lower our numbers. And we wonder the same. So the most common reason that we get animals dropped off to us is because they're orphaned. So that's why our busy season, or what we call our baby season, is the spring and the summer months for us. But orphaned can mean a lot of different things. So some animals are truly orphaned. Mom may have been hit by a car. She may have been shot or severely injured, or maybe she decided that she was just done with one or more of her babies. That does happen in the wild. You call it tough love or survival of the fittest. But if a baby possum drops off of mom's back, she's not coming back for it. So maybe she can't count, or maybe it's one less mouth to feed, but either way, we know that that little baby possum needs to come into us for help. The second most common reason is injured animals. And again, it's for many different reasons. There's a lot that are caught by cats and dogs. It's very common. Then we get a lot that have a run-in with a car, or maybe they hit a window. A lot of times, we don't even know what happened to them. We just know that they're injured and that they need our help. Another common reason is what we call kidnapped. Sometimes it's a term that people don't always appreciate, but these are the intakes where we try to avoid them, or we do try to return the animal if possible. Baby birds will spend up to a week on the ground learning to fly. Many will get mistaken for orphaned. They get scooped up and they get brought into us. The same is true with fawns. They'll spend up to 12 hours in one spot without mom. And so many are picked up and brought in. So if they're brought directly into us, we can usually convince the person to bring them back, put them back with mom, but not always. And if someone picks up an animal and then they keep it for a few days, or maybe they feed it, a diet they found on the internet, then they can't go back. They have to stay with us. So our telephone hotline, it rings constantly in the spring and the summer months. We estimate 13,000 phone calls a year. It's very common to hear our staff say, put the baby bird back, put the bunny back, put the fawn back. Sometimes our staff may sound like a broken record, but it keeps these babies with their mom, which is the best chance for them at life in the wild. Another important factor is the weather, of course. If there are heavy rains or high winds in Austin, we know that the next 2 days are going to be very busy for us. Animals get, washed out of dens, birds get blown off course, or nests get blown down, and animals get really wet and cold, and so then they need to come into us. So there's a long list of reasons why these animals come in. We also see sick ones and trapped ones and imprinted or ex-pet ones. And we do everything that we can to keep the animal in the area that they came from. But with Austin and the surrounding counties continuing to grow, there's just going to be an increase in human-animal interaction and often conflict. And that's why Austin Wildlife Rescue is here. We're here so that people have a place to bring these animals that are in need of help.
release, I mean, this is what it's all about. This is what we are here to do, is release these animals back into the wild, and today was the perfect day for it. And a whole group of them, too. We got a nice mixture of things. You know, we've got a lot of possums that we've had for a few months. Those babies have been ready to go. I know they were super excited to get out there. And a couple of squirrels, and even a couple of skunks.
Yes.
Got a couple of those out early,
and
so that was nice.
No one got sprayed today.
Hey,
it was a good day.
Thing. That's always a good thing. You never know with those guys.
No.
And then the one raccoon, you know, he was an unusual one. He came to us in early January, so we've had that guy for about 7 months. They don't usually come to us until about May, so we've had him for a long time, and so we went ahead and released him, and so that's why we just have the one right now. But we were really excited to get him out. As you saw, he was an enormous guy, so he was definitely ready to go.
Yeah, we wanted him to have some friends, so we were actually holding off a little on releasing him, but raccoons come in normally so late for us. It's May when we get our baby raccoons, and we have hundreds of raccoons right now that we're raising for release that aren't even close to ready. So he was kind of his own. Yep. He was his one-off. He didn't get too many raccoons to hang out with, but he was, as you saw, how big he was.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay.
He was more than ready to go. So it was his time. Same with possums. Hundreds and hundreds of possums coming in, and this was just how many was this today?
Oh gosh, this was 35.
35. This was 35 possums.
Yeah, the tip of the iceberg.
The tip of the iceberg. We've done hundreds and hundreds in the last few weeks alone. They all come in kind of at the same time in early spring, so they're all ready to go within a few weeks of each other. So we get everybody, you know, raised, and they kind of go from tiny incubators to cages to outside cages. Once they're big enough and they're ready, they're climbing, they're eating well.
It's Possum-palooza.
Possum-palooza. Possums are one of my favorite animals. I feel like they're so misunderstood. There's so many good things about them, and we want them in our yards. We want them in our neighborhoods. You know, they cannot carry rabies. Their body temperature is too low. I think a lot of times people see them and they show their teeth and they drool and they look rabid, of course, but that's just them trying to be scary enough that you go the other direction.
And it works.
And it works a lot of times. I mean, if I saw a possum and didn't know enough about them, I would leave. I would not pick it up. I wouldn't mess with it. It works. They also, you know, they eat bugs, including ticks, ticks that can carry diseases. So a possum can easily eat 4,000 ticks in one summer. So think about these thousands of possums that we are taking in and then we're releasing back into Austin and the surrounding areas, surrounding counties. This is that many less ticks that you could have on you, that your dog or cat could bring in. And so they're so important. They also can eat venomous snakes, any snakes, but also venomous snakes, things that maybe you don't want in your backyard. And they also can eat dead stuff like decaying matter, so they're cleaning up the environment. So skunks get a really bad reputation. People always want to know if we're getting sprayed. And of course, the answer is yes, sometimes we are. That's part of the job.
No, never.
Jules gets sprayed. Just once, right? Once, only once. I was sprayed in the face and eyes, so that was a whole different story. Most of the time, though, when skunks come in as babies, they can't spray. They're too little. They can't control it. As they get to be juveniles, they do a little pounce. They stomp with their front feet, and that tells us that if we keep coming at them, they're going to spray. And they get used to us enough, I think, and we get used to them enough that we know when to kind of back off or when to keep coming. On release days, we have to keep coming because we have to catch them for release. So that's when there is a chance that we're going to get sprayed. If we get a juvenile and it's a little bit older, they're not as used to us. You know, we might get sprayed. It happens. I think most of the time a bath or 2 or 3.
Immediately.
We'll get the skunk smell off, but most of the time the whole entire rehab center smells like skunk, and everyone walks out and goes home smelling just a little like skunk.
But they're so great. I mean, they're so beneficial for the environment and everything. So, you know, once they're out there and even during the releases and stuff, they usually give you plenty of warning. It's not like you just come up on a skunk and you get it full in the face, usually. But, you know, most of the time they're going to give you plenty of warning with that little, you know, don't you do it sort of pounce that they do. So, you know, that's nature's way, thankfully, of, you know, giving other animals as well as people a bit of warning before you go up to them. So, you know, we're thankful for that at least.
And, you know, they have a limited supply of what they can spray. They can only spray 6 or 7 times before they run out. So they really don't want to spray you or spray an animal unless they really have to. They're saving that for kind of last minute. So that's why we know they're not going to spray us most of the time.
And they're super cute when they're babies, like when they're learning to spray. And they can't quite spray. It's more of a poof. that starts happening, and they look surprised half the time when it happens. It's like, poof, and they're like, whoa, what just happened back there? And it's so funny the way they just sort of learn it.
Yes, well, and even their pounce, when they kind of fall over. Sometimes when they're learning to pounce at you, and then they get a little too excited and they flip over on a handstand, or they fall over. So they have to learn even these little things that we just assume they already know. Yeah. But we love skunks too. I mean, they eat a lot of bugs. They have serious claws, so they're digging all the time. I don't think we caught one on this release, but a lot of times they'll walk right out of the crate and they'll just start digging, and they'll find some kind of a bug or a grub and they'll start eating it. So
yeah, and this was just such a great release site here in Bastrop County on over 300 acres that we were able to put them out to, that actually backs up to 2,000 acres of conservation territory. So, you know, one of the most perfect release sites you can get. It doesn't get better than that.
For sure. And then that perfect creek that was running through it that you saw, we couldn't ask for anything better. It wasn't too deep, but they could go in, they could walk around, they could get a drink, and then apparently that connects to 3 other creeks along the way. So we're able to release this many animals in one place because we know they have so much room to spread out. You know, donations are the most important thing for us. We are a nonprofit. We don't get any city, county, state, federal funding. I know a lot of people think that we get some kind of funding like that because we help animal control out a lot. They bring a lot of animals to us. It's a good partnership. They're helping us out as well by bringing the animals to us, but we don't have any funding from the city. So every single dollar that comes in is important to us because that's how we pay our staff to care for all these animals. It's how we provide the right food and the right medication and the right care to get all of these animals back into the wild today, like you just saw. So your donation today, your donation anytime is just so important to us, and it really does go, every dollar goes a long way. We do everything that we can to make sure that these animals get the best care they can, but on a tight budget.
Now I'd like to switch gears to the animals themselves and why we love our jobs. You know what's so fun about our jobs is that we never know what each day will bring. Sometimes you don't know if you can feed another baby squirrel. There's so many that came in one day. But other days the drop-off list might be a 40-pound beaver, a great blue heron that wants to peck your eyes out, a ringtail cat, and 22 ducklings from one mom. So I want to share a few of my favorite animal stories from this year, starting off with renesting great horned owl chicks. This is not something we've had a lot of opportunity to do in the past. So this year we had 3 different great horned owl chicks that fell out of trees, and they were able to be returned to their nests with their siblings and their mom. So Jules is our operations manager, and she called me up and she said, I think we can put this owl back in the tree. Do you want to come with me and try it? So of course my first thought is, does this mean that I'm climbing the tree or that she's climbing the tree? As it turns out, I'm a really good ladder holder. So Jules, she got up in the tree. We created a quick pulley system with a pillowcase and some rope, and I lifted the baby owl up to her. The next day, neighbors called and they let us know that the owl had scooted itself farther up in the tree and it was sitting next to its sibling, and they had seen mom that evening. So we did this 2 more times and all 3 were successful. This was such a cool thing to be a part of, and I know that Jules feels the same. We want to give these animals the best chance at life in the wild, and we feel good knowing that we did this. Another favorite this year is when a juvenile beaver was brought in by Austin Animal Control. You know, we get very few beavers, and the last one we got in was so good at destroying every crate and every cage and every water trough that we gave her that we were kind of dreading this next one. But this little guy, he was found in a neighborhood in South Austin near Manchac. Very few areas of water there, and definitely not a place that you would think would be a good home for beavers. So this one, we estimated him to be about 2 years old, which is young. That's actually about the age when they're leaving their family group. So he was very thin, he was cold and clearly struggling. So staff got him warm and hydrated, and slowly we started to put weight back on him. So for the first few weeks, he was sedentary. He slowly started to show improvement, but we were also in the middle of the ice storms in Austin, and so we were so fortunate not to lose power for very long at a time so that all of our animals stayed warm. It took several months, but he put on almost 10 pounds, started to get a little bit of his spunk back, and we worked with the Park Service to find a really great release site for him on the Colorado River, and it was such a great day to watch him swim away. I think another favorite story from this year is this little porcupine. She came in smaller than a soccer ball late last year. Porcupines usually stay with their mom for 6 months, so it was clear to us that she was pretty young and she was orphaned. She was thin and weak. She was not doing very well out in the wild by herself. So she spent the winter with us, and staff would let her walk around during the day and stretch her legs. And it was fun to see all the good pictures that came out of that. She got inside of a con bucket. She'd fall asleep on the shelves. She made a mess on the floors. Her quills didn't grow in quite as well as we thought they should, so she ended up staying with us for an extended period of time. But she will actually be released later this month, and we are so excited about that. And the last are just a few of my favorite pictures that I would love to share with you all. We had some very photogenic foxes this year. We only had 8, which is not very many for us, but they had a lot of time in their indoor playpens because they came in very, very small. And then as they slowly got older, they were moved to our large outdoor cage. And they were just all smiles as they started zooming. They had the zooms around the cages over and over, and we had some really great pictures of them. We also have this raccoon that was, he was just so into being in this little car. One of our staff members saw the car for free on the side of the road, picked it up, she sanitized it, brought it in and put it in the cage with several of our raccoons, and they had so much fun with it. So it's fun to see these raccoons and doing enrichment like this for them to keep them busy, see them playing in the car and playing with the wheels and doing everything that a raccoon should do. And then last, I think our favorite picture from the year is just this tiny baby skunk. It came in so small. It has a lot of white on it, which is not that common for skunks, although some of them are much more white than black. And this one has slowly just grown up with us and has so much spunk and attitude, and is finally actually getting moved outside later this week. And so we just wanted to share some of these pictures with you as our favorites.
name's Prytula. My degree is wildlife biology, and I go to Texas State University. And I've always really been interested in wildlife. When I moved here to San Marcos, I noticed that there was a rehab center close by, and I got super excited. So as soon as the summer came around, I applied, and I was super excited when Jules called me. My career goals, honestly, were always to be a rehabber, and having this internship really just ensured that thought of mine. It's been awesome working with all the animals, and especially I love this internship because it was really hands-on, and I really got that experience and just reassurance of this is what I want to do with my life. So I think after I graduate, I'm honestly considering coming here since I live in San Marcos. It's a 50-minute drive, but it's totally worth it. I love all the staff members I work with. Jules is awesome, and it's just super welcoming, and I honestly want to say I want to be here, and if not, I would love to travel out of the country and find a rehab job in Thailand or somewhere crazy like that. I think that'd be super cool. I just want to thank everyone that has donated. I know it's made it possible for me to be here today and get that hands-on experience that I've always wanted, especially as an undergrad. That's truly what undergrads are looking for a hands-on experience, so that when we go out into the real world, we're able to get a job. And so thank you so much. It really does make a difference.
We have to release deer on 1,000 acres for Texas. So this acreage is actually 2,000 acres, so that works out perfectly for us. But it also has so much land around it and grass and things for the animals to eat, so it makes it perfect and to forage for, and a nice stream so they can get their water. So it just worked out really great that this is a preserve that the deer can kind of just be deer on this land. They've been with us for about 5 to 6 months until they lose their spots, and then we know that they're ready for release.
You're free. Go. Go be a deer. Go be big deer.
The blonde porcupine is actually a leucistic porcupine, so that means that he's lacking certain pigmentation in his fur, or in her fur. So she actually looks really bright blonde, and it's the first one we've ever had like this. Normally we get in a lot of leucistic squirrels, but this is the first porcupine, so she is a new kind all in her own, and we named her Lucy because she's leucistic, and she is quite a character. She is pure personality. This guy came in, and he was actually trapped in a parking lot. So he was in an area where, in downtown Austin, where he could not get out of. He should not have really been in that area. There's nothing to forage for. So he was brought in by animal control, and he is just, so this would be what you would consider the normal coloring for a porcupine.
That would be awesome if you climbed a tree.
I know nothing about
Oh yeah, they live in trees. They actually, that's why most people never see them, because they live up in trees and they don't need to come down a ton, and they eat the bark up there.
He was a little bit younger when we first got him in, so we held on to him, and he had to prove his climbing skills to us, and then we knew that he would be ready for release as well, which he's proving right now that he's an amazing climber and is actually eating the tree branches just like they should. Porcupines are a type of rodent, so they have the ever-growing teeth, and so we want to make sure that they're getting a lot of things that they are going to be gnawing their teeth down on. They get antlers so they can chew on them. We give them fresh branches every single day. We give them sweet potatoes, corn. They love the corn. So the second you put out a piece of corn, they're going to go for that immediately. We are noticing more in the east now because of all the big trees. They're able to forage for a lot more in that area. They are kind of being forced more in the city, which is where we got most of ours, because of construction. They're getting lost. They don't know where to go back to. And so we're lucky to have a place like this where we can release it with such large acreage, and they have so much to live off of.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This event is our biggest fundraiser of the year. The funds raised today will help so many animals get a second chance at life in the wild, and we hope that you will help us with that. Austin Wildlife Rescue does not receive any city, state, or county funding. We keep our doors open because of donors like you. You make it possible for us to help thousands of orphaned and injured wild animals, and we cannot thank you enough. Please don't forget that Colin Corgan is matching up to $20,000 raised today, so your donation will do twice as much good and help twice as many animals. The link to donate is in the video description. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, the Nicholas J. Juriad Family Foundation, our Great Horn Owl sponsors, the Maw Gallery, Felix Media Solutions, Tomlinson's Feed, Connie Marin, Tito's Handmade Vodka, Shippey Property Management, and Austin Area Wildlife Rehabilitation. Our Gray Fox sponsors, Reliant Plumbing, Beverly Seffel, Bluebonnet Electric, Rich and Leslie Nitschke, Clint and Sarah Smith, Suzanne Dvorkin, Annie Judas and Jared Peterson, Phoenix Translations, and Forest Family Dentistry. And our Armadillo sponsors, Velocity Credit Union and Deborah Hulse. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We really hope that you enjoyed the video that is coming up next of the animals that we are caring for right now. And we hope that you have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
It's not only people who are brunching this morning. Our staff are preparing food full of fresh vegetables, kibble, or formula for the animals. Formula, as well as care for each species, is highly specialized to make sure that they get the nutrition they need and have the best chance of survival in the wild. With warm temperatures, access to drinking water is incredibly important. Staff and volunteers make sure to refill the water bowls regularly and give hydrating veggies for the animals to snack on. Though not everybody's eager to be on camera this morning. Staff come in at 6 a.m. and stay well until 2 a.m. to make sure that the youngest ones are well taken care of. Volunteers are incredibly important to help us feed and clean all the animals, and if you are over the age of 18, we'd love your help at the Rehabilitation Center. All volunteering happens in Elgin. As you enter the facility, you'll probably be greeted by Miller, the resident monk parakeet. He thinks that he runs the place and is very selective of whom he likes. Every inch of the facility is used. The outside porch, for example, is not only housing ducks, which you saw earlier, but also fawns who are still too young to go out to the outdoor pens. They are fed 4 times a day and not only love formula, but also the salt on your legs. So make sure to wear long pants if you don't want to be licked. All those bottles that the staff prepared earlier are long empty. The small mammal rooms are always busy. Before feeding the animals, the staff always check that the babies had a chance to digest their past meal and then weigh them to determine how much formula to give. Austin area is home not only to the fox squirrels that we see in the trees, but also the rock squirrels who make their homes on the ground, but are still excellent climbers. Even when rodents arrive to us as small pinky babies, we can always tell the squirrels apart by their black nails. Though baby season slows down a bit in the middle of summer, we've already started receiving the second wave of squirrels and opossums. And of course, the rabbit season is from January through December, so those moms never get a break. Since we opened the doors of the Corgan Rehabilitation Center in 2019, nearly 25,000 animals have received help from our knowledgeable and dedicated staff, interns, and volunteers. From the energetic gray fox kids to slow-moving snapping turtles, majestic bald eagles to the smallest hummingbirds, from the thousands of opossums and cottontails to baby rattlesnakes, we never close our doors and we never stop improving the standards for their care. Your generous gifts not only provide food, shelter, medicine, and physical therapy to these animals until they're ready for release, but also create career and educational opportunities for a new generation of wildlife stewards. Our silent auction is open until Monday at 8 p.m., and the link is in our video description so you can go and check out the items that you can bid on. Thank you so much for joining us today. Your support is incredibly important, and thank you again for keeping Austin wild.